So last night I was reading The 100 by Cass Morgan, and I DNF'd it because I realised about halfway through that I just really did not care. But that book reminded me of a lot of books that I read and loved when I was in my late teens and early 20s, and about how many of those I still own because I'm ridiculously attached to them. So today we are going to be talking about all of the series that I have taking up shelf space that I should probably unhaul because I would hate them if I read them now, and I have no intention of rereading them, but I'm never going to do that. The series that we're talking about today, the majority of them are not awful. There is one in particular that I don't even think is a good series, but for some reason I found it really addictive, and overall I really loved it, even though objectively like I don't think it's good at all. But they're not awful, I've just outgrown them. They are very much a product of their time. They are the series that were popular in the years when I was actually reading them, because when I was a teenager in the actual age range for these books, a lot of them didn't exist, and we were more in the paranormal romance phase of young adult as opposed to the high fantasy phase of young adult that we are in now, and I just don't really love paranormal anymore. It's not my thing. I love fantasy romance, especially high fantasy romance, and I'm more into high fantasy in general now, but this is when young adult was really starting as a demographic, as something that publishers were actually marketing for and putting books into, and they are, a lot of them, just a product of their time. I was still discovering myself as a reader. We all know that our tastes change as we read more as we get older, and obviously I'm reading a lot more adult than young adult these days, but these series just hold a special place in my heart, and I would never reread them. I don't think I would like them if I ever did, which is one of the reasons why I wouldn't reread them, but I'm just not going to unhaul them. I'm going to keep them forever. So most of these are series, which is why they take up so much space, because I have the entire series. But for the only ones that aren't series, we have the John Green books that I've read. The only one that I've read that isn't present here, that is still on my shelves, it doesn't quite fit into this category, is Turtles All the Way Down, but I do also own the rest of John Green's books. So I have like Will Grayson, and Abundance of Catherine's and Let It Snow, but I have not read those. But these are the core three, you know. We have the one that kickstarted it all with the movie The Fault in Our Stars, which is of course about a young girl who has cancer, and she meets a boy at a cancer support group, and they very quickly fall in love. We also have Paper Towns, which has the worst ending ever. Like I don't even like this book that much, but it's just, I have an attachment to it, you know. This one is about a boy who's in love with a girl who lives across the street, and one day she goes missing, and she leaves, I think she leaves a map taped in her window, and he takes that as a sign that he has to go hunt her down. So he does exactly that. And then we have Looking for Alaska, which had a plot twist that I did not expect and kind of ruined the book for me, I want to say. I wish it didn't have that plot twist. I just wish the whole plot of this one was a little bit different. But this one is about a boy who falls in love with a reckless girl, and I don't remember whether it is in like a boarding school or a summer camp or something. But despite the problems that I had, especially with these two, I did really enjoy them when I read them, and they're just, you know, they're classic YA, so they're gonna stay on my shelves. The series that I said at the beginning of this video is the one that I think objectively is just really not good, and I had so many flaws with this when I was reading it, but I was obsessed. I think I really liked the romance in this. I think that is what it was. But that is the, what is it? Is this the White Rabbit Chronicles? Is that what these are called? Oh yeah, the White Rabbit Chronicles. So the first book is Alice in Zombieland. Then we have Alice Through the Zombie Glass and The Queen of Zombie Hearts. I picked these up because I really like Alice in Wonderland. Still have not read the book of Alice in Wonderland, but I was obsessed with Tim Burton. I still am a little bit, and I really loved his adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. So I thought that these would have an Alice theme in them, like you would think so. I don't remember a whole ton about a lot of these series, but this is set in a world where zombies are real and the main character can see zombies, and she's called Alice. That's the Alice theme, like she is called Alice, and there's like this different, is it like a different plane where you can see the zombies? But I think her parents, like her family, have all died, and I think they end up turning into zombies, and she ends up with this group of zombie hunters, and the main zombie hunter guy is called Cole, and I really liked him at the time that I read this series. But it's just so bad. Like you can tell that this is written, the series is written by an older woman who is writing things that like seem cool for teenagers but just aren't cool for teenagers, and it comes off as like really cringy. But they're also, these are super addictive, but the plot is trash, and the writing's not good. but I loved them anyway. I remember literally nothing about this series, but this is the reason why I'm making this video. This is what I was thinking about when I was reading the 100, and that is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. So The Fifth Wave, The Infinite Sea, and The Last Star. And I literally remember nothing about these. I remember a scene with a girl, I think she's sleeping. There's a bus in here, and there's a boy. Is the boy an alien? I think this is an alien series. This is about waves that have come to destroy humanity. So it says like the first wave took out 500,000 people, second wave put that number to shame, the third wave lasted a little bit longer, 12 weeks, 4 billion dead, fourth wave, you can't trust the people are still people, and the fifth wave, no one knows, but it's coming. So from what I remember, this is about aliens and body snatchers. So the aliens are trying to get rid of humanity, and then they are starting to replace the humans. And the main character, is she looking for her little brother or something, or is it one of her parents? But it's got a romance in it with the alien dude. I really enjoyed the first one. The second one was all right, and I don't remember how this series ends. And even the plot of the third book is really not helping me. You know what, I would actually reread this series, because I never used to read critically in terms of like, I would just kind of accept a story. Like I could say the writing's bad or that I didn't enjoy it, but I would just accept most of the time where the plot was going in a story. So I would actually maybe like to reread these so I can refresh myself on the ending of this and like kind of see where it went wrong, because I remember not liking it, but I don't remember what it was about it that I didn't like. And it's a movie. I don't know if I've seen the movie for this. I'm assuming it wasn't very good if I didn't even remember that it existed. One that I know for sure I've definitely mentioned at least briefly in other videos is the Caster Chronicles by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. So this is the Beautiful Creatures series that was also made into a movie, which I think I've seen and I didn't really care for it. But like, I'm thinking about this, and was there a trend of just not putting the synopsis of a book on the actual book? Because this is telling me nothing. But I remember, I think the main character of this is actually a boy, and he falls in love with this girl. They're all romance based. Can you see why I am the way I am? But he falls in love with this girl called Lena, and she has a curse on her. I think there's a curse on everybody in her family. And on the 16th moon of the 16th year, I think that she's going to die. Now, I don't even remember if I enjoyed these all that much. I remember the atmosphere. I think the setting of these really stuck with me, because I can remember like images from the books. But like with the 5th season, is that what it's called? The fifth wave. Oh my god. I cannot remember the end of the series. I did definitely read them all, and then I found the first book of the spin-off, which follows, I think it's Lena's cousin, in a charity shop, and I ended up unhauling that because I knew I was never going to continue. But the main reason why I'm keeping these books is not even because they have a special place in my heart for the story and stuff like all of these do. It's actually because these were the first books that I ever bought from Waterstones when I was in university, and because of that I will always keep them, because I came from a very low income family, like a single parent benefits family, and we never had money for books. Like that was just not a thing. So I used to get occasionally, like I've spoken about this before, like Louise Renaissance books and Meg Cabot's books I would get new, but I used to read like 10 books a week. So I was in the library every single week. So buying books was not something that I was ever able to do. And even when we would buy books, it would be from like the supermarket, because they were generally really popular books. But I don't think I'd ever seen a Waterstones until I went to university, and these were the first books I ever bought. So I will be keeping them because of that, if nothing else. A big one, I guess, is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay. I really loved these when I was reading them. I think I was 18 when I read these ones, and I adored this series, and it's one of the series that I've really wanted to reread for the longest time. So I think it was in 2019 I decided to reread them, and I've known this entire time that I really don't like Katniss. Like Katniss is one of my least favorite characters ever. I'm just not a big Katniss fan at all, especially in the books. Like I love Jennifer Lawrence, so the movies are a different story. But I reread these and I really don't like these. Like my original rating for The Hunger Games was already on Goodreads, so I didn't change it because when I read these I was the actual demographic for when I was supposed to. But I read Catching Fire, which I thought was my favorite book in the series, and I think I gave it 2 stars. I just don't like the way the story is structured. Like I feel like it focuses on the most boring elements of this world. So like for example in this one we have the victory tour, and most of it is skimmed over apart from a couple of scenes, and the actual main thing in this book is a round of the Hunger Hunger Games that only covers the last 100 pages. I don't like Katniss because she's stuck in her head all the time, which does kind of make sense, and there is like trauma and stuff going on in here which definitely plays into her character. But I don't like this series. I haven't reread Mockingjay yet. I kind of want to, just so it's done and I can say I've reread it, but I don't think I will unhaul these. I don't know, because now that I've reread them as well, I have a much different opinion on them because I don't like them anymore. I don't want to reread books anymore because it ruins them for me. But I loved this series, so I'm gonna keep that. How many times have I said to you guys that I hate historical stuff, that I will not read historical stuff, and I have no interest in historical romance? It's a very important question because this series I really, really loved, and that is the Look series by Anna Godberson. So these get a lot of attention on my shelves as well. People always ask me what they are, but we have the Looks, Rumors, Envy, and Splendor, and it's a little bit like, kind of like a young adult Bridgerton, I guess, like an 18th, I think, century Gossip Girl. 1899, so is that that's the 19th century, so like a 19th century Gossip Girl. From what I remember, it's about these two sisters, and one of the sisters is supposed to marry this guy who I guess would be like the Chuck Bass of the world, like the eligible bachelor, super rich, super handsome, and her younger sister does not fall into like society standards, and she actually is attracted to this guy and he's attracted to the younger sister, and it is like a historical romance series. I did not like the end of this series. The end of this series just made me feel like the whole thing wasn't worth it, and I get why it happened, especially now that I'm older. I understand the end of this series more, but just after all of the angst and the drama and going through all of this series, for it to end the way that it did, I was just not happy about it. So this is like completely off brand for me, but I really, really love this, and I did want to read the 20 series by Anna Godberson, but I think I might have grown out of these now. What's the writing style like? I don't know. I might like it. Let me know if you've read any Anna Godberson in like the last couple of years and whether you think I should bother with the 20 series. No YA paranormal era is complete without the Fallen Angel series. Now there was this one, which is the Hush Hush series by Becca Fitzpatrick, and there was also the Fallen series by Lauren Kate, and I hate read the Fallen ones. I hated those, but I really, really loved Hush Hush. Now I will say that book 3, Silence, I hated this book because it has an amnesia trope in it. So throughout this entire book, there are people telling one of the characters that has amnesia the entire plot of the 2 books that came before it, and like filling them in on all of this stuff. So it was just super repetitive and unnecessary, but I was a hoe for Patch. Many a young teenager in the mid 2000s was a hoe for Patch, and I was definitely no exception. I wish I had the first book in these hardbacks though. That is my only wish. I couldn't even tell you if these were good. I don't think I loved, I think it was Patch. I think it was just Patch that got me through the series. Plot wise, I don't remember it being anything spectacular, and I do think I rolled my eyes at a few points, but I was really into Patch, so I really enjoyed that series as well. And one that takes up a great deal of space on my shelves is the Vampire Academy series by Rochelle Mead, because not only did I read all of the Vampire Academy series, I also read all of the Bloodline series as well, and I just cannot get these books to stay in a stack. But yeah, this is 2 6-book series that well, to be fair, actually, Vampire Academy, I didn't love this so much, and even my ratings on Goodreads reflect that. Well, the Bloodline series I was obsessed with when I was in university was the period of time when I wasn't really reading much at all. So like I used to go home for the holidays and I'd read quite a bit then, but when I was actually at uni, I wasn't reading at all. But these books, I think the last 2 or 3 of them maybe, were published while I was in university, and I bought them new and read them immediately. I remember especially the last book, which I think is the last book, Silver Shadows, or is that book 5? This one completely broke me. I think it's this one that like really upset me. Yeah, this is the one that really upset me, and the Ruby Circle is the final one in the series. So I especially remember reading these 2 at university. But Vampire Academy is obviously a vampire series, and it follows 2 girls called Lissa and Rose, and Lissa is a vampire and Rose is a Dhampir, which are like half vampires, and the half vampires are the vampires' bodyguards. The vampires in here have certain weaknesses. I can't remember what they are, but the Dhampirs don't, which is why they are their bodyguards. Like they have a different set of skills. One of my favorite characters ever was introduced in this series though, and I think he was done so dirty, and that is Adrian. I adore Adrian with all of my heart and soul, which is why I'm so much into the Bloodline series than I am the Vampire Academy series. I will never ever get rid of these. I really just don't think I would like them if I reread them now, especially this one, but I don't think I could jump in and reread Bloodlines without getting all of the backstory and the original story of Vampire Academy. So I don't think a reread of this series is ever going to be on the cards for me. I will never ever unhaul these. I loved that series, Bloodline, so much. And I remember actually when I got Vampire Academy, it was when I used to go to charity shops and I used to pick up books and they're like 3 for £1, and I picked up one of the books in this series on a whim. I don't even think it was book 1, but I found all 6 of these books in different charity shops across the very small town that's close to where my mum and dad live in like a day. It was really weird because the town near where my mum and dad lived has like a population of 10,000 people. It's really small. It has 1 street of shops, maybe 4 charity shops on it. It is like quite charity shop heavy, to be fair, because it's like a seasidey town kind of area, and that's the kind of vibe that they have. But I was like, I got all of these secondhand and I was so proud of myself. And then the final series, I'm not sure if it belongs in this video. I may actually unhaul this because I read this a couple of years later than the rest of the books and I'm not quite as attached, but that is Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. I do still have all 3 books. I didn't like Rebel of the Sands all that much, but I really liked the second 2 books, which is Traitor to the Throne and Hero at the... I'm having a day. And Hero at the Fall. But this is about a girl who grew up in this town in the middle of the desert and she wants to escape and go to the city, and one day she manages to do that and she meets the boy, because of course she does, on the way there. And there's like a big political plot line to overthrow the Sultan and stuff, and I think there's also Jin in here as well. So I may unhaul this. These books are beautiful though. They are absolutely stunning. But I'm not super attached to these because I did read them a little bit later, and I've definitely read books with similar themes to this that are much better. Like An Ember in the Ashes has a similar theme to this, and actually is that much better? I just read that series and I was disappointed, but that's another series that I think I would have loved a lot more if I'd have read it at the same time that I was reading all of these. And one that is definitely better is City of Brass by S.A. Chakrabarti, and they are both written by people associated with and part of those cultures, unlike Alwyn Hamilton. So yeah, I enjoyed this series. May unhaul that one, but I feel like it's when I've collected and read a whole series, especially if I read them in relatively quick succession, I get more attached to them and then I'm unlikely to unhaul them, because by the time I've read an entire series, I've invested a lot of time into that series. So they stick with me a lot more, and I'll remember like things I was doing at the time I was reading them or certain scenes, and then I'm much more unlikely to unhaul them. But these are all of the series with a couple of standalones that I should probably unhaul. I really should, but I'm never going to. I'm trying to get you guys a bookshelf tour, but I have stacks of books around, and the ironic thing is that if I unhauled all of these, I would have enough shelf space on my main paperback shelves that I wouldn't need an extra paperback bookshelf. But essentially, before I do this bookshelf tour, I'm getting a couple more shelves in and sorting all of that out so that I can get the books off the floor onto some shelves and actually do a bookshelf tour instead of a library floor tour. But when I've done all of that, maybe I'll have like a small shelf in my bedroom for all of these. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But this was the video. Please let me know down in the comments if there are any series like these for you where you would not like them if you read them now. If you hadn't read them, you would not be interested in them now, but you own them, you have them, you read them, you love them, and you will never unhaul them. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish Candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. That's it from me today, guys. Bye.
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.